Deeptika Laurent joins me for a look through the top stories of the day so far. And let's start with the Russian press, who are feverishly reporting on the World Cup that kicks off today.
That's right. It is making the front pages of some of the papers there. Let's start with Izvestia, which is a Russian daily that says on its front page, a long-awaited start. In fact, since winning the bid in 2010, Russia has become, of course, ever more isolated from the international community. We're seeing a very different Russia today than the one back in 2010. Anyway, the paper says Russia is hoping to hold a, quote, beautiful and memorable World Cup and leave a good impression on those who come. Indeed, if you are heading to Russia, the Moscow Times has put together a helpful list of questions you might have about Russia and Russians, from things like how do I get out of jail, to gay rights, to Wi-Fi, and of course, as you see here, the ultimate question, will Russians be nice to me? The paper does admit Russians do have a reputation for being, quote, downright mean and surly, but they assure us that behind this demeanor is a, quote, innate desire to be friendly.
Oh, you just have to charm them, I suppose. Now, as well as on the front pages, I should imagine the World Cup is getting a lot of attention in the sports pages too.
That's right. Let's show you L'Equipe, the French sports paper here. Great headline, Dance with the Tsars. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. We all get the play on words there. While Le Parisien is dedicating their front page to the French side, of course, saying, we believe in them. Why we believe in them? Well, they say, unlike the ghosts of World Cups past, this side has presented a very polished, controlled image to the public. And perhaps as a sign of that seriousness, Le Parisien has noted that this year's star players like Paul Pogba and Antoine Griezmann have abandoned their eccentricities. There are no wild, radical haircuts from footballers this year in France, just military-style buzz cuts. I quote, a very corporate message from Les Bleus to the public.
OK, well, we're staying in France for this next story. A diplomatic spat with Italy has reached new lows.
Well, two countries just keep trading barbs, don't they, after the Italian government refused to take in a migrant ship carrying over 600 people this week. Well, now Premier Giuseppe Conte may cancel a planned meeting with Emmanuel Macron. For Libération, the French daily, Rome is throwing a tantrum while Paris is trying to calm tensions. Now, you'll be hard-pressed to find any kind of kind words for France from the Italian pages. This writer for Il Fatto Quotidiano has penned an ironic piece peppered with French words, mockingly saying, well, excusez-moi, Mr. President, and thanking Macron for, quote, having the time to give us, Italians, a lesson in humility and hospitality. I quote, who better than you to teach us liberty, equality, fraternity?
It's a little sarcastic there. Now, let's talk about a radical proposal to split the huge state of California into 3 separate state governments. That's gaining some traction, it appears.
It's called the Cal 3 proposal, Olivia. It's a brainchild of a guy called Tim Draper. He's a Silicon Valley billionaire who wants to make California a tri-state. Now, he's gotten enough signatures for it to appear as a proposal on the ballot during midterms in November. The idea being to split California, as you see there in that image, into North and South California, and then the coastal state of just California. NPR explains that the idea behind this is that the state of California is fundamentally ungovernable, at least for some, because it's so politically, socially, and economically diverse, and a division would mean that it would be better served.
OK, but the odds aren't exactly stacked in favor of such an initiative.
Well, USA Today says there have been 200 attempts in California alone to divide the state, and numerous attempts in New York. The only state that succeeded was West Virginia, which split from Virginia back in 1861. And for one writer from the Sacramento Bee, well, basically the message is don't poke the bear. This proposal is unconstitutional and impractical. Rather than splitting the state, they should devolve more authority to counties and charter cities. California, I quote, is fine just as it is.
OK. Well, finally, we're following up on a very important story that you covered yesterday, the exploits of a skyrise-scaling raccoon that got locals obsessed and concerned in the state of Minnesota.
Well, residents in St. Paul, Minnesota are breathing easy today. The world as well, I think, after the raccoon scaled up 20 stories of a high-rise office building. Those adventures captivated locals, sparked numerous tweets, a live feed, and finally, thankfully, a safe rescue on the rooftop and a release into the wild. Now, it turns out that the raccoon was, in fact, a girl raccoon, as this journalist explained. explains, highlighting our perceived sexism in raccoon reporting. Why were we all so quick to assume the furry hero was a male? That's what she's rightfully asking on Twitter. Maybe the raccoon herself could respond. She's gotten her own Twitter account with thousands of followers now.
I'm hardly surprised. A brave and daring female raccoon. Laurent, thank you very much for joining us today.